You were almost asleep, and suddenly your brain decided to replay that embarrassing memory from 7 years ago. Maybe it was something weird you said out loud. Maybe it was a joke nobody laughed at. Maybe it was that moment when you waved back at someone who wasn't actually waving at you. And instantly your body reacts like it's happening all over again. Your chest tightens. Your face gets hot. You close your eyes. Sometimes you even make a weird involuntary movement trying to physically push the memory away. And the strangest part is, nobody else remembers it, only you. Your brain seems to store these moments as if they were extremely important. So, before we continue, comment down below with the most random, embarrassing memory your brain keeps replaying for no reason. I genuinely want to know how universal this is. And if you enjoy this kind of content about human psychology, evolution, and behavior, make sure to subscribe because there's a lot more coming. The weird thing is that this happens to almost everyone. Humans forget birthdays, forget names, forget where they left their keys. But embarrassing memories, those seem to survive forever. Your brain can erase important details from last week, but somehow perfectly remembers that awkward thing you did in 2014. And that raises a strange question. Why? Why does the human brain do this? Why does it repeatedly replay socially painful moments, even years later? Because this is not some random flaw in the human mind. There's actually a very good chance this behavior helped your ancestors survive. And to understand that, you have to go back long before the internet, long before school, long before modern social anxiety, long before civilization itself. For most of human history, people didn't live in cities. There weren't millions of strangers around. There was no privacy. Humans lived in small groups, maybe 20, 30, 40 people. And inside those groups, everything depended on your reputation. People who hunted together survived. People who shared food survived. People protected by the group survived. But humans completely excluded from the group, they usually died alone. Ancient humans had very little chance of survival. You needed the tribe to find food. You needed it for protection against predators. You needed it to survive the cold. You even needed it to help raise children. So the human brain started developing something extremely important. Social hypersensitivity. Your brain needed to quickly detect anything that could threaten your position inside the group. Because an embarrassing social situation wasn't just uncomfortable. It could mean exclusion. And exclusion could mean death. Today, shame feels like just an unpleasant emotion, but for thousands of years it functioned as a social alarm system. Imagine an ancient human saying the wrong thing during a tribal ritual, or behaving in a way the group considered strange, or publicly failing during a hunt. If that damaged the way others saw them, the consequences could be serious. So the brains that remembered social mistakes more intensely ended up having an advantage, because they learned faster what behaviors to avoid. Over time, the human brain became incredibly efficient at recording socially painful experiences, especially shame, humiliation, rejection, embarrassment. And that explains something strange about you. Your brain doesn't replay these memories because it wants to hurt you. It replays them because it thinks it's protecting you, as if it's saying, "Don't do that again." To the ancestral mind, repeating a dangerous social mistake could threaten survival itself. So your brain prefers to overreact. It's safer to suffer remembering something embarrassing than to risk social rejection again. And maybe the scariest part is realizing that your modern brain still works almost exactly the same way, even though most embarrassing situations today don't actually matter. You trip in public, and your brain reacts like your tribal status is under threat. You send an awkward text, and your nervous system behaves like you might be abandoned by the group, because biologically speaking, your brain still lives in the ancient world. And that explains another strange thing, why these memories usually appear at night. During the day, your brain is distracted. Light, conversations, notifications, work, videos, noise. But when everything becomes quiet, when you finally stop, your brain starts reviewing old social experiences, like an ancient guard trying to detect possible threats. It's almost like some primitive part of your mind is asking, are we still safe inside the group? And modern science shows just how deep this really goes. In 2003, researchers at UCLA studied the brains of people experiencing social rejection, and they discovered something disturbing. Some of the same brain regions activated during physical pain were also activated during social exclusion. Your brain processes social rejection almost like physical pain, because for most of human evolution, it was. Another study found that negative emotions linked to shame and embarrassment create much stronger and longer-lasting memories. That happens because the brain gives these moments more emotional attention. In other words, the more shame you felt, the more likely your brain was to label that memory as important for survival. And that explains why some embarrassing memories feel impossible to erase. Your brain tagged them as survival information. But there's also something kind of sad about all of this. Most people probably don't remember the moments you replay in your head at 2 a.m. That embarrassing thing you still think about. Other people likely forgot it within minutes, but your brain didn't. Because it was shaped in an environment where small social mistakes could have massive consequences. So it keeps trying to protect you, even in a completely different world. Maybe that's why humans care so much about what others think. Maybe that's why rejection hurts so deeply. Maybe that's why shame can still feel intense years later. Because some ancient part of your mind still believes that belonging means survival. And maybe the strangest thing about all of this is that while you're watching this video on a glowing screen inside a modern house, connected to millions of people through the internet, your brain is still functioning like it's sitting around a fire 40,000 years ago, desperately trying not to be left alone in the dark.